Oh, so it's DMV.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Depart, right, but they set up a thing to check it, just like they have it. So it's
Oh,
the
I
Department
see.
of Health
I
and
see.
Environment. Amanda Thompson, and do you have it? Let me go get it.
Okay, all right, well, that's fine.
Everything working this morning?
I think so. So far, anyway.
is September, right, not July.
It has been for a couple days, I think. You're live.
At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Thursday, September 27. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Klicka.
Here?
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
And Chairman Eilert.
Here. All are present. We do have a quorum. Would you join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of present this morning, if you have a noise-making device, would ask that you turn it to silent mode or off. As not to interfere with our communications, our meetings are streamed online. We have one spatial presentation to be made this morning. Ms. Postoke Ferguson, there you are. I'll join you at the podium.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I want to highlight some employees that have done some innovative things. In the past, we've recognized this, so we'd like to show you a more recent one where our pillars of performance and the culture that we're building with our organization and employees showing innovation things that benefit the end taxpayer and our residents. And so here's an example where Chris Loomis and Amanda Thompson have shown how they've addressed an issue with the Department of Health and Environment with occasional waiting times. And so this will illustrate that they are putting innovation in practice and we're continuing to improve our services. So first I'd like to show a video and then ask them to come forward.
People walking into Johnson County's public health clinics couldn't always get a very good idea of how much time their visit would take. If the waiting room was full, the front desk could only give them an estimate. During the weeks leading up to the start of school, when parents typically bring their kids in for shots, patients would sometimes wait 2.5 to 3 hours to be seen by a health professional. Chris Loomis, who manages the clinics, knew something had to be done.
The people come first, right? Our community comes first. And I know that as a community member, I would expect that from my health department, doctor's office.
Chris saw firsthand the success of the QLIS system at the county's motor vehicles offices. What happened next shows how Johnson County government puts the pillars of performance into action. Chris immediately realized the public health clinics could use a QLIS system of their own, so she did some research and got pricing. As soon as the project got the go-ahead from the executive team, she collaborated with Amanda Thompson on implementation. Their work resulted in this: a new QLIS system that the public immediately embraced with written comments like this.
I expected my wait to be an hour, and the QLIS system kept me updated, and it was actually less time than I expected.
People can now go to the JoCo.gov website or download the QLIS app to their phone and get in line from anywhere. Estimates of wait times are much more precise, and text updates allow clients the freedom to do other things besides sit in the waiting room. They can even ask the system for more time if they're out doing errands. Gone are the days when people would come to the clinic, see the long wait time, and then leave.
The clients are staying and getting their services here rather than walking into an emergency room or an urgent care center for services they can get here for a relatively cheaper cost.
The QLIS system isn't only saving people time and money, it's also giving them more privacy.
We used to have some questionnaires that, they're going to ask some questions that people may not be as open to answering when someone's watching them circle something on a sheet of paper, and that's how we used to do some of those questionnaires.
Now, the answers go straight into the system. No one can accidentally see them on a piece of paper. The employees here say the culture of Johnson County's workplace lays the groundwork for constant improvement.
We're here to provide services to anybody who walks through our door, and so reducing our wait time actually increases the amount of services that we can offer to the public.
This 21st century solution to lost time in the waiting room is a Pillars of Performance success story showing Johnson County values at work.
So let's congratulate Chris and Amanda on their innovative work. I offered to allow them to say a few words, but they were willing to just take a picture. So we'll let their work speak for themselves.
Okay, we'll take the photo. And then, Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Thank you very much. Come on, say something. Well, Amanda and Chris, thank you very much for your approach to your workplace and enhancing our customer service possibilities. Good job. And I would say this, if there's anybody from the Kansas Driver's License Office listening, I'll give you some time off. But seriously, this effort, as was mentioned, is a result of a program that's been ongoing for several years within our county employment group, and encouraging them to look at operations in their own particular area, and if there are improvements that they think can be made in the service level or whatever is offered in their particular area or agency, we want to hear about it. And so, ladies, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Penny, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we will turn to the public comment portion of our agenda. If there's anyone present who would like to address the commission on an item which does not later appear on the agenda, would invite you to the podium, state your name and address, limit your comments to 5 minutes, and we'll be glad to receive that information. Mr. Raby.
Good morning, Tom Raby, 17513 West 113th Street, Olathe. And I thought about asking these two ladies from mental health if I could have their 5 minutes of time. And I thought, well, the chair will probably pin my ears back for that, so not often, Tom. Not often, okay. Serious subject. And I've seen some things in writing and some things on social media and some things on TV that there's a new wave of parenting called free-range parenting, where you just procreate and let them go. And we've all been in a restaurant where we actually had to pay our money for a service where we could not enjoy the service at all because of screaming and yelling and sometimes even wandering at will children. And, you know, I know I'm an old Neanderthal in that regard. My children were taken outside if they tried to act like that. And my mother would have not only pinned my ears back, she would have tacked some other parts too. And so I know things have changed, but if you think free-range parenting is a good thing, just stop and consider that there are other people in the world that don't appreciate your lovely children. They may be your lovely children, but to somebody else, they're a terror, with apologies to Hamas and others. But they are terrorists in a world where we're trying to instill civility. But in addition to that, if you really love children you'll teach them things and keep a close eye on them and a handle on them. Somebody says, oh, how can that poor woman put a harness on that kid? Hey, you don't know that kid or that woman. Maybe that kid has a habit of running after something, and that's a danger to him and to others. Mother found that the only way to control this is with a harness. But also, in addition to that kind of danger and stripping of shelves, which is great fun when you're 4 years old, there's the danger of abduction. And I've heard several cases of really suspicious activities, one in Johnson County, some others in the general area, where people they really felt threatened and they had to seek a safe place or somebody to help them out when they felt that their children might be. There's a market in the world for children. As much as we don't like to face these kinds of things, it's there. And Johnson County is a good marketing or a good fishing place for these marketable children, because we've got lots of children in our population. So let's keep them safe out there and pay attention to your surroundings and keep control of your children. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, there being no one else to be heard, the public comment portion of our agenda is concluded. I do have a couple of notes for the record. I will be signing a resolution number WD 18-038, enlarging the privately financed sewer district and provide for the assessment of all applicable fees, charges, and levies of the Consolidated Main Sewer District in the vicinity of 151st Street and Mission Road. Be signing 2 full release of easements for the Consolidated Main Sewer District due to the removal of a sanitary sewer line in the vicinity of 90th Terrace and Lichtenauer Drive in the city of Lenexa. And finally, be signing a partial release of easement for the Consolidated Main Sewer District due to the removal of sanitary sewer line in the vicinity of Flum Road and 115th Street in the city of Overland Park. That concludes notes for the record. Moving to the consent agenda, will the clerk please read the proposed consent agenda item?
Item number 1, consider reappointing Richard Marion as the 4th District Representative to the Developmental Supports Board through August 31st, 2021. Item number 2, consider appointing Gina Ortiz as the 5th District Representative to the Commission on Aging through August 31st, 2021. And item number 3, consider reappointing Randy Hutchins as the 6th District Representative to the Planning Commission through October 4th, 2021.
Is there any item a commissioner would like to have considered separately? Is there anyone present who would like to have an item considered separately? If not, it's back for the commission. Mr. Osterhaus.
Move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. As we move to the action agenda, I'm going to use the chair's prerogative and advance a couple of items to the first of the action agenda. In one case, there are individuals present who may want to speak who have other official business commitments to make. And then another item will be considered for deferring or continuing. And so I want the clerk to read item number 7.
Item number 7, consider approving a real estate lease agreement with the Kansas Department for Children and Families for the building at 301 North Monroe, Olathe, Kansas.
Ms. Morrissey.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Kim Morrissey, Facilities. This item is to approve a real estate lease agreement between the county and the Kansas Department for Children and Families for the facility at 301 North Monroe in Olathe. This facility was formerly used for the Adolescent Center for Treatment for the mental health program that was relocated in 2016 to the Youth and Family Services building. The county does not have a need for this type of space, and due to the deteriorating condition, recommended demolition of the building. In May of this year, we learned of a dire need that the DCF had for finding places for temporary housing for children in need. And so we worked a lease agreement whereby starting October 1st, that there will be a 1-year lease at no cost and it's renewable for another year. And in lieu of rent, the DCF will pay for operating, repairs, and maintenance of the facility. And they intend to contract with the KVC to operate the facility. And I have Chad Anderson with KVC here, and I have Daniel Klukas with the DCF, if you all have any questions.
All right, questions by the commission? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Morsery, thank you very much for the presentation and bringing this forward. When it was proposed to eliminate, raise this building, there was a little bit of angst, and I know it was thought through and was a determined decision, but I appreciate you reaching out to our partners in governmental service and finding this as a solution, and I hope it works out for the state's betterment and these families and kids that are needing the service. But one question, that in this year, given the state of the building, the county itself has no liability if something were to happen due to the structure, and, you know, heaven forbid, but I just wanted to make sure that that contingency was covered in these negotiations and this decision.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen?
Thank you. The only question I had is a building permit going to be pulled on this location, and it's going to meet all the requirements of the city of Olathe for the use that's intended?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Kim, can you tell me how many individuals will be able to be located in this building?
The hope is that it can provide housing for 25 children.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions? Is there anyone present who would like to address the commission on this item? All right, if not, it's back before the commission. A motion would be in order. Mr. Osterhaus.
I'll move to approve a real estate lease agreement between Johnson County, Kansas and Kansas Department for Children and Families for the building at 301 North Monroe, Olathe, Kansas.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the lease agreement as noted and recommended. Any further comments? I would just make one. I'm glad that we are in a position to assist DCF and KVC in addressing an immediate issue that's very, very important. This is not the entire solution, but hopefully it will help.
Agreed.
Any other comments? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye, motion carried. Item number 8. And the reason I'm advancing this is because I anticipate there will be a motion to continue this item. So if there are those here for this item, you don't have to stay through the entire meeting. Will the clerk please read the item?
Item number 8, request for proposal RFP number 2018-062. Consider authorizing a contract with Henry Wurst Incorporated for printing and mailing services for publications created and distributed by the Johnson County Public Information Office, Johnson County Park and Recreation District, and the Johnson County Library at a cost not to exceed $325,000 for a period of 1 year with the option to renew for 4 additional 1-year periods.
Mr. Waters, Can you give us an explanation? I anticipate there's been discussion about continuing this at the staff level. Can you confirm that?
Yes, sir, I can. We would like to defer this item 1 week, if you all would be so inclined, in order for us to complete some additional research.
Okay. Questions? Is there anyone who would like to address the commission on this item? If not, it's back before the commission. A motion to be in order. Mr. Clickham?
I move that we defer this item for 1 week.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to continue item number 8 for a period of 1 week. Any further questions or discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion passed. We will now return to the top of our action agenda. Next item.
Item number 4, consider approving the September 6th, 2018 business session minutes.
We had a couple of absences, so a motion is in order. Mr. Osterhaus.
I move that we approve the September 6th, 2018 business session minutes.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the September 6th business session minutes as presented. Are there any corrections or additions? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye. I'm sorry, abstain.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Abstain.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Next item.
Boy, that was touchy.
That was tough. That was tough.
Is this a sign for the rest of the agenda?
At this time, we will read item number 5 and 6 into the record at the same time. Item number 5, consider approving the proposed 2019 County Assistance Road System Program expenditures in an amount not to exceed $16,060,000. And item number 6, consider approving the proposed 2019 Stormwater Management Program expenditures in an amount not to exceed $18,295,330.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kent Lage, Urban Services, Johnson County Public Works. I brought friends with me today, so please take it easy on both Lee and myself. So we're here today to present both the CARS, the County Assistance Road System Program, CARS program, and the Stormwater Management Program expenditures for 2019. Before I start with the CARS program, and Lee will follow up with the Stormwater program, I want to make a few introductions. Introduce staff that some you only see once a year at this time. You will be seeing Lee Kellenberger, who will be presenting the Stormwater program. He's our program manager. Heather Schmidt is our water quality specialist. And then Sarah Smith is not here today. She's our project engineer. And then we have Laura and Kelly back at the office taking care of things while we're gone. I'd also like to introduce staff that are here. Bert Morey with Overland Park, Doug Whitaker with the City of Shawnee, Jose Leon with Roland Park, Kevin Broomer with Merriam, Melissa Pringer with Prairie Village, Rob Bifus with Olathe, Beth Wright with Olathe, Dan Merck with Edgerton, and Tom Jacobs with Lenexa. Tom, we'd let you be part of the group if you want, but it's okay that you're over there for now. And then, of course, Brian Pedig, some of you guys know that mugshot, so he's sitting back in the corner, but he's also a big part of this and provides great support to both programs. So the CARS 2019 proposed expenditures of $16,060,000 will fund 14 projects in 12 cities. These expenditures have been recommended by the Technical Review Committee, or TRC, at its July 16th meeting. And it does comply with our current policies and procedures and also is consistent with previous years' programs. Our vision and mission statements from our recently completed strategic plan for the CARS program. The overarching 4 strategic areas we will be working on are livable streets, multimodal transportation, intelligent transportation, and additional funding. The first 3 are what we are working on right now, and very specifically, we're going to start with the intelligent transportation system. So the funding for the CARS program is from three sources: the Special City County Highway Fund, or gas tax as we all tend to call it, county support at .343 mils, which was established a number of years ago, and then the use of CARS Reserve, which are funds that are returned to the program as projects are completed under budget by the cities. We do allocate these funds based on the 80% rule, which is a rule that was established by the Technical Review Committee in the early 2000s. It allocates funds to cities who submit a qualifying project based on the city's population and assessed valuation compared to the countywide population and assessed valuation. So here are the 14 projects for funding. The projects range from mill and overlay to street widening and reconstruction. Funding ranges from approximately $500,000 to almost $2.9 million. The details on each of these projects is included in the briefing sheet packet. I do want to note that we had 14 projects that we did not fund this year because of funding constraints. The CARS share of those 14 projects is approximately $6 million with $16 million in total design and construction costs for those projects. So on this map, this shows the location of the 14 projects. The number by each line represents the location compared to the list on the previous sheet where the numbers are shown. As a reminder, CARS funds 50% of eligible construction costs. Many projects, or several projects I should say, are funded less than 50% because either of ineligible construction costs or because of receipt of state or federal funds. The funding this year of $16 million is approximately 1/3 to 1/4 the value of the $58 million in construction that the cities will be performing. So the CARS program is definitely a great resource for the cities to help move projects along. And with that, I'd stand for questions.
Kent, you may have mentioned this, but these programs come to us after being reviewed by Technical Review Committee, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that committee is comprised of?
Oh, sorry. So the TRC, the Technical Review Committee, is comprised of representatives from each of the cities in Johnson County, one voting member, and then also a voting member for unincorporated Johnson County.
Okay, all right, thank you. Questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lage, I'm glad you're here with your many, many friends, and I appreciate the work that you all do, very much so. Mr. Lage, I raised this issue last week, and I just want to reinforce it. Part of me is very supportive of infrastructure and would like to say with the growth in Johnson County, we could easily double the support for this program and still not have enough capacity. But the fiscal conservative in me says, before we do that, I hope we've exhausted all of our other options. And particularly, the question I raised last week to Mr. Lage was the use and development of AI, artificial intelligence. And one example that we've talked about, at least in this chamber, is the Carnegie Mellon efforts in Pittsburgh to synchronize cameras and forecast traffic flows so that the capacity of the existing resource is maximized. And some of the literature, and I'm sure all of the traffic managers here already know this, but some of the literature suggests that you could get as much as 25 to 40% improvement in capacity on existing infrastructure without adding new infrastructure. Now, I don't know what it is for Johnson County, but that's a tantalizing thought. So I hope as we go forward, that is at the height of your discussion or the forefront of your discussion as we make decisions regarding what is unfortunately a limited resource, a valuable resource, and a very important resource. And I'll top it off by saying the one frustration that I hear most from people about driving around Johnson County is, well, we're going just fine down such and such a boulevard, but all of a sudden, then the lights are different. Why is that? And the answer sometimes is, well, you change political jurisdictions. You move into a different city, and maybe we aren't fully synchronized. So that's a minor issue, and I know you are aware of it. And I look for progress as you look at AI and how it helps the flow of traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? If there's anyone present who would like to address the committee, Kent, did you want to go ahead with the stormwater?
So we'll do stormwater.
Let's
and
do
then
that,
if we-
okay.
Several city representatives would like
right.
to speak. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Lee Kellenberger with the Johnson County Stormwater Management Program. As Kent mentioned, today I'm going to be bringing forward the 2019 recommended expenditures for our program. They have been prepared in accordance with our current policies and procedures. They are consistent with our previous year's expenditures, and they have been recommended to you today not only by staff but by our the Stormwater Management Advisory Council, which is also comprised of one voting representative from each of the 20 cities and one representative from unincorporated Johnson County. Just to refresh everyone's memory on the source of this funding, in 1988, the Kansas legislature adopted or passed legislation that allowed counties to adopt a retail sales tax for the purpose of funding stormwater and flood damage, flood control projects. Johnson County was the only county in Kansas to adopt that tax in about 1990. Subsequently, they created the Stormwater Management Program, and we've been operating ever since. We work in concert with the Stormwater Management Advisory Council to oversee the collection and make recommended expenditures of those funds. We also recently completed a new strategic plan, and our vision and mission statement from that effort is shown here. Our vision is what we aspire to achieve, and our mission is how we intend to get there. Moving on to our proposed expenditures, this table is intended to give you an overview of the entire program. At the top, you can see the total funds available at $18,463,501. This is a combination of revenue generated from that 1/10 of a cent sales tax and carryover from previous year's unspent funds. Below that is a summary of our program expenditures by program area, totaling $18,295,330. Approximately $13.3 million, or 72%, is going towards watershed improvement projects, shown in yellow. Approximately $3.8 million, or 21%, is budgeted for our stormwater management program planning and support projects. $750,000 is budgeted for our system management projects, and the remaining 3% is budgeted for program administration. This includes staff salaries, support from other county departments, and our operating expenses. That leaves approximately $168,000 of unobligated funds that will be carried over till next year. The next slide shows our our program planning and support projects. The majority of these funds are going to be used to develop watershed master plans in the coming year. This was one of the main outcomes of our strategic plan. These master plans are going to be guiding foundational documents for the newly created watershed organizations. And I know that the cities on those organizations are looking forward to getting those started in 2019. Below that, you can see some funding amounts for several other ongoing efforts that we have with the cities. The next slide shows our system management projects. We're budgeting $750,000 for system management, specifically for inventory and condition assessment. This is another new element of our program that came out of our strategic plan. We are working on currently developing policies and procedures around this program, and we're not going to be actually ready to fund any system replacement projects in 2019, so this funding will be used to help cities complete their inventory and start on our condition assessment work. The next slide is our watershed improvement projects. We budgeted $675,000 for MPDS Phase 2 support. This funds a variety of projects that help cities meet their water quality permit requirements with KDHE. We don't anticipate funding any water quality improvement and preservation projects in 2019, but I showed it as a line item. Those projects will be starting to be identified as part of our watershed master planning efforts, and we hope that those projects will start coming online in 2020 and later. And finally, we have budgeted just over $12.5 million for flood damage reduction projects with the cities. We will be funding 7 different projects in 3 different cities and 1 in the unincorporated Johnson County, as shown here on this table. And I've also shown them graphically on this map. The Stormwater Management Program funds 75% of design and construction of these projects, and the city where the project is located funds the remaining 25%. And with that, I'd stand for any questions.
This cycle began a slightly different approach by looking at watershed by watershed. Can you make any comments as to how that progress is going?
Yeah, we're well into implementation of that strategic plan, and we've been meeting for the past 18 months, and we're starting to kind of start to wrap our heads around how this is going to work, how these watershed organizations are going to work. You know, in the past, we've responded to the needs of the cities directly, and it hasn't allowed us to really look holistically at the watershed. We're going to look at, through a different lens, basically, look at it from a non-jurisdictional viewpoint, from a watershed-based approach, and see the solution may not be in the city where the flooding exists. The solution may be upstream or downstream in some situations, so.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. If I had a state representative approach me just last night about stormwater concerns. Yeah. So what is the on-ramp for someone who backs up to a streamway that has a concern? Yeah. How do they get to, not to you particular, but how do they get their concern brought in to the fray to be considered? Well,
they can find my email address.
Okay.
But we talk with a lot of residents on a routine basis, and so do the cities, as they can attest here today. Streamside property owners in Kansas, we unfortunately don't own the land underneath the stream, and we're a very high private property rights, state. So we deal on a routine basis with property owners that have stream bank erosion or sediment filling their ponds. The bottom line is their first line of defense is the cities, to see if there's anything the cities can do. Most oftentimes there's limited things that we can do on private property, though.
Okay. But to you you're the on-ramp. Is that what I heard you say?
Well, yeah, you can definitely pass it to me.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Brown, I was going to comment because talking to constituents, that does come up from time to time, and I just wanted to share that Mr. Kellenberger and his staff, Mr. Lage, have been really very responsive, because I have offered several referrals and then have gone back, and I want to commend you for that. So keep up the good work and keep him on staff, Mr.
I will.
To the point, though, Mr. Kellenberger, again, and I've said this before, I really appreciate your strategic alignment, the systemic look at watersheds. When I first raised the issue several years ago and encouraged you to develop a strategic plan, I didn't know where you would go, but this seems to make a whole lot of sense. And I know there was some intrepidation about how do we change our thinking collectively from jurisdictions into systemic watershed issues and management. And while we may not be there yet, I continue to hear good reports by you and your staff, Mr. Lage, reaching out and working with the cities. So I thank you and the people working on this and the cities for trying to embrace it, because I think intuitively we all see it. Water doesn't stop at the edge. It affects us system-wide, and your point about sometimes maybe upstream or downstream, but rather than just within a political jurisdiction looking at the system. So good job. Thank you.
Mr. Osterhaus.
Well, I just want to echo those comments. I know there's been a couple times at least that I've reached out to Lee for individual citizens and also with city partners, and they've been very responsive. And even if there's not a particular plan in place, there's options for people to do for mitigation and things like that. So I want to echo those comments of appreciation for both county and city staffs who work together on these things.
Mr. Allen.
Just a quick comment. Both the CARS and the stormwater program are two of the outstanding long-term programs in Johnson County, and have led to a transportation network and addressed a lot of issues on. I can go to sewer backups, a lot of different programs, but the incremental every year addressing these issues over a long period of time has really made a significant difference and led to a lot of orderly growth on the traffic that we can control, at least in my opinion. But both are outstanding programs for the county.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Just response to that is that it is not all, just can't deny it was a lot of effort and work and volunteer time from all the cities and stuff, and our support staff, and also the private consulting. We really came together as a group to come up with this approach.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm sure there are some who would like to comment on this and would welcome you to the podium. Just state your name and the community or address that you represent, and we'll be glad to receive your comments.
Good morning, Commissioner and Chairman. I'm Rob Bifus. I'm Stormwater Manager for City of Olathe, and I want to thank you for your support of the CARS and SMAC program. I want to give specific thanks to Lee, who came out the other night to our City of Olathe Council meeting and gave a presentation on the updates to the business plan. And I just want to pass along, I think we were the first city to go to get that presentation, and our comments from our council members were very positive. So I want to thank Lee for coming out and educating them on the changes. In fact, one of our council members made the comment that, hey, all these improvements we're making at the top of the hill are going to have some positive impact to those downstream. And as a stormwater manager, I love to hear that comment. So that's really the direction we're heading. Regarding the CARS program, just really quick, just wanted to thank you guys. We're going to be concentrating on Santa Fe and Ridgeview, which is one of the busiest intersections in Olathe, making improvements to that. And without the CARS contribution, that project would not be possible. So again, thank you for your support of those programs.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for having us here today. I'm Bert Morey. I'm with the City of Overland Park. And just, echo my colleagues' comments. These two programs are great programs, and we really do appreciate the support. I went back and looked 5 years at what the impacts of the City of Overland Park, the impacts these projects have had. With the CARS program, we've been able to do 23 projects in our city, which have benefited hundreds of thousands of people a day. The traffic counts on our thoroughfares are in the tens of thousands of vehicles. So you're supporting the investment that the citizens of Johnson County have made in our infrastructure. So it's a great program. The SMAC program, like the CARS program, I went back and looked. Over 5 years, we've done 7 programs in Overland Park, or projects in Overland Park. We've taken 43 homes and 12 intersections out of the 100-year floodplain. That's huge for life safety. Emergency vehicles are able to respond during an incident when before they would not have access to portions of our city. The 43 homes that we've taken out of the floodplain, those have eliminated expenses to those residents in floodplain or flood insurance, as well as just the disaster relief. Even if they had flood insurance, they're getting flooded, and there's expenses with that, and it's a bad deal. So again, those two programs are great. But lastly, I'd like to express our thanks to the staff. They're knowledgeable, they're helpful, they're enthusiastic, they're just great folks to work with, and so we really appreciate the cooperation that we get out of your staff on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Broomer. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Merriam. And I'm here today to also thank you folks for administering or helping us to provide these types of programs countywide. And I'm going to go off script here for a moment, because when I say countywide on my drive over here today, I haven't really ever thought about this in this context, and that is that I live in Shawnee, I work in Merriam, I exercise in Lenexa, my mother lives in Prairie Village, and I'm standing in Olathe. So when I say countywide, I think all of us have that type of travel throughout the county, which we are directly and indirectly affected by these types of programs. Now, I realize I shared this little ditty with you last year, and that is that I spent 18 years working in Johnson County and then moved to a different county for 12. I've been back for 2. And the reason I shared that again is because coming back here and having this resource, or these resources, or these programs, really made me appreciate, or being gone, I should say, really made me appreciate when you sit down to do a CIP or capital improvement project, that you have these programs to assist you in that. And as an example, with the CARS program, let's say I have it's not always whether or not we can or cannot afford to do a project. Sometimes let's for instance say I have a half-mile street program project on a collector, that happens to be broken into quarter mile sections. My budget may only allow me to do that first quarter mile, but with the county's assistance, I can then do that entire half mile, thereby getting the whole thing done in 1 year rather than doing a quarter mile this year of the disruption and going to the next one the next year and disrupting and having, you know, the traffic, and whether you live there or work there, you have a business there, you're not disrupted 2 years in a row, not to mention you avoid the inevitable, you know, head scratching of the resident traveling public saying, well, why didn't you do all of it, you know, the first time? So that's how invaluable these programs can be. You know, and going over to the SMAC program, you know, I often wonder, you know, how many houses would still flood since 1990 if not for the SMAC program? Not to mention roadway flooding and the safety issues that come along with that. It's hard to imagine. You know, I still hear from people that say things to the effect that I can't sleep at night when there's heavy rains out because they're worried that they're going to flood. And that goes more back to my work life before I came back to Johnson County. And if not for the SMAC program, there's a lot of people that would still lie awake at night wondering whether or not they're going to have a problem. So I would also like to echo what others have said about the staff. I can tell you that they're professional. They hold our feet to the fire. They make us dot our I's and cross our T's, which is as it should be. And I think that they should really be commended for how they run these programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else? Kent and Lee, have you promised lunch to anybody? I'm kidding.
Chairman, Commissioners, I'll keep this short so I can have that lunch. But I do thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dan Merck. I am the Public Works Director for the City of Edgerton. And for a community of our size, these programs just open the possibilities for many projects that we may have to take longer in order to put together and to collect the funds for, to where now there's a lot more improvements that are within the reach of a community of my size. And we are really appreciative of both programs, real appreciative of the staff that coordinate these programs. And I echo the same thing these gentlemen have said. The opportunities that it gives us is tremendous. And currently I'm under construction for a project that affects a major truck route through town. And like the gentleman before me, it's going to be one time that I mess up the flow of traffic, and then it's going to be fixed. And the impact of that for the community is going to be great. So we're real appreciative of this program. Look forward to a continued partnership, and I want to thank you and thank the staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Edgerton's small but mighty.
Yeah. Anyone else? I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but could the representative from Olathe, I do have a question. Glad to if you'd come to the podium. Glad to see the.
And you know I'm a stormwater guy, right?
Glad to note the improvement at Ridgeview and Santa Fe. Will it enhance westbound movements off of I-35?
I think I'm going to punt on this one to
Reinforcements.
my supervisor.
Hello, Beth Wright, Deputy Director, City of Olathe. Yes, it will improve the westbound movements. We're adding dual left turns to all directions and right turn lanes for all directions, and then 2 through movements for all directions. So it's a large expansive. It will be disruptive while it's being constructed, but remember, no pain, no gain, and you're going to love it when it's done. But it will improve all of the movements, but particularly the westbound.
Well, thank you very much. That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, follow on, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Ashcraft?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Isn't that where the new Quick Trip is located? I mean, you're double lanes?
Yes, and that has been accommodated. So we were under design when Quick Trip came in, so
good,
that right-of-way has been dedicated. The right turn lane that was constructed with that project allows for the additional expansion to be to the east.
That's good. They just went to that. I was hoping it was not very good.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the commission on this item? All right, there being no one else to be heard, is back before the commission. Let's have two motions.
All right.
Mr. Klicka?
I'll start out with, I move to authorize the proposed 2019 County Assistance Road System Program expenditure in an amount not to exceed $16,060,000.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion by the commission? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried.
If you want the next one,
Yes.
should I move ahead with that?
Yes, stormwater.
Okay. I move to authorize the proposed 2019 Stormwater Management Program expenditure in an amount not to exceed $18,295,330.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the stormwater management program as outlined. Any further comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other items on the action agenda to be considered?
No, sir.
All right. Moving to reports and communications, Ms. Post-Oak Ferguson.
Chairman and Commissioners, good morning. The first item is the City of Olathe. On October 2nd, the City of Olathe will hold a public hearing to consider the issuance for IRBs, Industrial Revenue Bonds, at I-35 Logistics Park Building A project in an amount of $63,537,280. And this is relating to a industrial warehouse facility. Square feet is 1,168,150, located at 155th and Old 56 Highway in Olathe. 10-year, 50% property tax abatement. And then next, I would like to highlight two staff members. So one is Michael Aldridge. I'm really going to wait till next week because his last presentation is next week, but I'm just giving you a preview of why I haven't yet. So you guys you can make comments today and next week if you want to for him, but I'll wait till next week. But another staff member is Kim Morrissey, and she's our Deputy Director for Facilities. She's retiring at the end of this month, but I know that of all her duties, her favorite is really being here at the board meetings. Not so much, but anyway, so Kim, Kim has been the interim director in the past. She's currently our deputy director, but she started out in the 80s as a budget analyst here and was project manager and financial and real estate manager. She did do 2 tours, so she left for a break from the county to work as part of the Sprint campus and then came back to us. I think Joe hired her back. So we've really appreciated Kim's service over the years. We will miss her. I wanted to take the opportunity because when she presented today, I was reminded that this might be the last time she presents. So we might see her. I'm not sure if she or Brad will have her come one more time. But I wanted to take the opportunity to thank her for her service. So let's congratulate Kim on a well done service. And I would ask Joe or Brad if you want to say anything additionally, and I'm not sure if Kim will, but we'll give her the opportunity. That's up to her. But Brad or Joe, would you like to say a few words?
I'll start and Joe can add on. But yeah, Kim has been incredibly important. You know, someone who comes into the county new. I could not have, the department could not have accomplished all we've accomplished without her support. And she's our editor-in-chief is what she refers to herself as. One of her important roles, making sure our communications are crisp and clear and well thought out. So I'll miss her. I'm very nervous about it, and I appreciate all the contributions she has provided to the county over the years. So thank you again, Kim.
Mr. Waters, did you have a comment?
Just one. Because there would be so many reasons to thank Kim for her outstanding service here. Her leadership has been extraordinary. But probably the most important thing that she did was she was part of a 2-person interview team with the then deputy county administrator that hired me in 1990. So that, of course, was her greatest. The organization right there.
She's
We
had
were
to live
going
with it
pretty
ever
well.
since.
Yeah, I was going to say,
So, to follow up with that, I don't know how many years of service on the 2 tours, but in facilities years, that's probably a little bit longer. And now that I know that about Joe, we can add that too. But Kim, we appreciate your service, and if you'd like to say anything, you're welcome to. If you don't, that's fine too. Oh, she is.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity to make such an impact to the community and to be a part of this wonderful county. We have accomplished so much in the 25 years that I have worked here, and we've seen so much growth and brought the facilities for the county operations to a level that was probably never imaginable. And so it's really been an honor to be a part of that, and thank you all.
Thank you. Well, Kim, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That's it for my report.
All right, next item, Mr. Kleffner, Auditor.
Chairman Eilert and Commissioners, good morning. Ken Kleffner from Audit Services. Today I'd like to provide you an update as to the status of open audit recommendations as of 30 June. Thank you. During the second quarter, a number of audits experienced some real progress in my view. 12 recommendations were implemented during the quarter, and I've identified the audits where they originated from. We published 2 audits during the second quarter, which added 8 recommendations to our inventory, which leaves a balance at the end of 30 June at 38 audit recommendations open. This particular slide arrays those audit recommendations by the audit, and I'll pause for just a brief moment and give you an opportunity to go through that, and then I'm going to address just several of them. This is the one I'm most excited about. You've heard me address this audit for a number of times now since I've been in the county auditor position. The Management of IT Hardware Resources Audit, which was published in February 2012, has one recommendation open, which is the oldest in our inventory. I'm excited to in the respect that action taken over the last several months by DTI and many other county staff have really moved this, and we've made progress. As you know, centralizing IT procurement is just a component of a larger IT initiative. And the update that I have on the bottom of that slide is essentially a summary of what the CIO presented to you last week. DTI has hired a program manager. They've established a purchasing development team, and that team includes membership from JCL, GEMS, and JCPRD. They have met with 90% of the departments and agencies to discuss the concept of operations, and just so far, they've saved $34,000 on 4 procurement orders through collaboration and consolidation. But most importantly, they're on schedule. Next, our review of the district coroner's administrative activities audit was published on March 22nd, just 6 months ago. Department of Health and Environment implemented 5 of the 6 recommendations during the second quarter. The 6th and final recommendation was implemented in the third quarter, and I'll address that the next time I present an update. But I want to compliment Department of Health and Environment for the expediency in which they tackled and corrected the issues noted by the audit. And then finally, the HUD OIG audit of the City of Olathe has 2 open audit recommendations. The audit recommended consolidating the City of Olathe's home program with Johnson counties, and that the City of Olathe align their agreements to mirror Johnson counties, specifically in the loan forgiveness area. And the current status is that there has not been any change on those 2 recommendations since last quarter. If you recall, management assigns a rating to each recommendation, which indicates its significance to operations. This is a countywide view of the open audit recommendations, and 34 of the 38 are considered to be either significant or crucial. And that concludes my presentation this morning, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Other questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kleffner, thank you for your presentation. Succinct, I think it covered your activity well. One question, though, the chart on slide 2 is a good representation of the activity and the results. Do you have or do you track the outcomes of your recommendations and the overall impact? A couple of the other slides kind of hint at some savings, but do you have a master tracking of that in terms to help us have an understanding of the significance of some of these results, or some of the recommendations and actions taken?
The answer would be yes, Commissioner. We've included that in our balanced scorecard that we implemented last year, but I want to qualify that to the extent it's mainly in the area of hard savings and soft savings.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Allen.
Just a quick question on the IT equipment, outside agencies, Park and Rec and Library, they're in on centralized purchasing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Kleffner. Are there any other items? There are none, so we'll go to commission comments. Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been a busy week again since the last meeting. Friday morning, I had the pleasure to attend the KC-ATA open house and bus tours. The tour comprised of visits to 3 of the bus stops that are new in our system. Very, very nice event. Thank you to all the people who attended that. Friday afternoon, went to the Northeast Mayors. We get together once a month, and it was sponsored by Westwood Hills. Talked about certain issues that affect the county and our local cities in my area. Saturday morning, the chair and I had the pleasure to attend a great event, the Big Bull Creek ribbon cutting, what a park. And that's a large piece of property. I want to thank the voters for voting for that X years ago. Ed, I hope you can comment on that as well. Monday afternoon, had a chance to come back out here and participate in the Johnson County sponsored event called Time Management, which I need desperately. So that worked out well. I took a lot of notes. It was well attended by a number of staff members, and I took a lot of notes, and I hope I am able to use some of the recommendations they shared with us. And then Tuesday evening, the chair and I again attended a Sierra Club sponsored event called Why Johnson County Commission Matters. Very well attended, and I think a lot of people were taking a lot of notes. So thank you to the Sierra Club for sponsoring that event. Thank you.
Mr. Clickham.
Just one thing, just to remind everyone, Stillwell Community Park, Inclusive Park Playground is opening up on Saturday. It's at 10:30. Lunch is going to be served, and the community is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ashcraft.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Allen.
Yes, last Thursday, I attended the Kansas Transportation Task Force in Pittsburgh, Kansas. Very good presentations down there. It's moving forward. All comes back to dollar considerations, how much money is going to be in there. It does seem to be moving. The one thing that's probably the top of the list, in my opinion, of it sings among the group is that maintenance is a high priority, and money's been diverted from that, and the longer you delay that, the costs go up significantly. Another thing, I think they're moving towards the direction on whatever funding source, they'd like to see that money dedicated where they can't come back. The sales tax increase a few years ago was supposed to be used for transportation items, and then unfortunately was I think over $2 billion in the last 5 years was swept. So whatever program comes up is to dedicate that money where it cannot be taken away and used for transportation. The Pittsburgh officials made a very strong business case. 69 highway stops basically on an expansion at Fort Scott, and there's 20 miles left to do, and they made a very compelling business case and why that needs to be extended. It's interesting to hear from some of the smaller cities, some of the maintenance issues and just highways with no shoulders and how these vehicles can go off. The number of bridges that these smaller counties are not able to take care of, and I think that's why they want the money for maintenance. In the rural counties, if a bridge is closed down or a highway is shut down, how it's going to affect the availability of their children to go to schools and to move their agricultural products is going to be a key issue. So it all boils back to that. And then changing tracks. Sunday, I was Johnson County's representative for the Kansas City area chamber event in Denver, Colorado, Pierre County, and went and looked at their best practices. A lot of that, again, was on transportation. They had a major initiative back in 2004 to spend several $1 billion on transportation, multimodal, very advanced in the show from 2004 to 2018 in downtown Denver, what that has done to the community. Literally, the public and private investments on the roads were significant, but tens of billions of dollars of additional investment. But it came back to the biggest thing that they said was their success was the investments that were made in transportation. So very intense. They keep you, I know other members here have been on those meetings. They keep you going all day. So, but learned a lot, and hopefully we can pick up some of their best practices. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Osterhaus.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Got a few items here. First off, I want to thank Maury Thompson. He was able to get that workforce development things that I spoke about last week rolling, and both him and Robert had reached out already to Keeley, and when Commissioner Brown and I were at the workforce development meeting, she had mentioned that, so thank you. Chairman and I had the opportunity to go to the Celebrate Friends event for Friends of JCDS last week, very well attended. It's neat to see every year, and it's in the same Camelot Ballroom, but they add rows of tables every year, so very nice to see that. And then finally, one of my constituents and a longtime county employee, Dan Fields, our park chief, retired after 37 years, so I want to give him some credit because he's been very helpful, at least for me as a commissioner, understanding the needs of security in the parks and that sort of thing. And so we wish him well in retirement. Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. 3 items. Yesterday, attended the Johnson County Airport Commission Board meeting. Just a quick update there. The hangars that were damaged in the straight line windstorm a year ago are nearing completion. So we're just about there. On Sunday, I took my wife out to see the sunflower field at Heritage Park, and for any of you who have not been out and seen it, it is magnificent. It was butterflies and grasshoppers, and I don't know, there were things flying around. They weren't bothering us, but there were things flying around I've never seen before. But the wildlife, the birds, it was amazing. It really is. And if you get a chance to go out, please go see it. Take the time to drive out. 173rd and Flum. On your right-hand side as you drive into the park, you can't miss it. It's huge. And then earlier this week, I had the opportunity and was asked to tour the 119th and Metcalf driver's license office after I had thrown a couple of elbows about the fact that it was running poorly. The Secretary of Revenue contacted me, Sam Williams, and was very gracious and asked me to join him in seeing the new facility and getting a private tour of what is coming for us as Johnson Countyans in the Kansas driver's license office. It's going to be excellent. There are going to be 16 open stations by October 22nd, roughly. So toward the end of October, it is going to take an immense amount of pressure off. I would also point out that he pointed out that your new driver's license, and you have to go through the virtual brain damage of going through it, but you have to bring in your passport, your birth certificate, and all the stuff, and it's called Real ID, and Department of Homeland Security enforces it. We are about a year from having cycled through that huge slowdown in the system. Once we're through that, many of us will be able to renew our driver's license from your phone or from your computer. You will not have to go into the driver's license office to get it. So huge advantage, huge opportunity for us to have picked up another office in Johnson County, and things there will be improving even more than they already have just very recently.
Commissioner Brown, may I ask a question with your visit with the Secretary? Having a beautiful new facility with 16 stations, one of the biggest concerns whether or not the state has enough money to man those stations. Was that addressed at all?
We'll see.
Okay.
You know, you mentioned something I would encourage anybody who's going in for the Real ID driver's license, an experience my spouse had. she did not have her original Social Security card. And so she was unable to get that real ID. And so you might double check the requirements before you go into the office.
There are no exceptions. That is coming out of Homeland Security, and it's not up to anybody in the state of Kansas to decide to waive or forgive anything. You have to have, you're right, Chairman, you have to have all the right
She
paperwork.
had passport and everything else, but she did not have a copy. I mean, she knew what her Social Security number was, but she did not have the original card showing the number.
Don't laminate your
So,
Social Security card either.
yeah.
That's a bad idea.
So anyway, well, thank you very much. You know, this weekend, there's going to be a lot of activities across the county. As mentioned, the parks will be opening the Universal Playground. Spring Hill has their festival with a parade, and Overland Park also on Saturday has their festival with a parade. So across the county, a lot of activities, so enjoy them. We do have a fire board meeting this evening. Begins at 6 p.m. at the fire station at 191st and Metcalf, I think 19120 Metcalf. I understand the chief might be busy at the barbecue pit. So at 5 or 5:15, we'll have a light dinner, I guess, and an opportunity to tour the station and see some of the equipment there. So
Meeting starts at 6, Mr.
meeting
Chair.
starts at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
That is correct. We do have a request for an executive session. Mr. Allen,
Mr. Chairman, approximate start time after agenda review, maybe 15 minutes for that, or?
I think we're going to need maybe a little longer, 30 minutes. Yeah.
I'd move that the board recess its open meeting and convene an executive session at approximately 11:10 a.m. for a period of 15 minutes for the purpose of receiving the advice of counsel and to protect the attorney-client privilege, and for a period of 5 minutes for the purpose of discussing pending litigation and to preserve confidential information, and to reconvene an open session in this room at approximately 11:25 a.m. or as soon thereafter as the executive session may end.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the request for the executive session. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer. Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Clickup.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. That concludes our regular business agenda. We are in recess. We'll take a short break and come back for agenda review, followed by the executive session. Thank you all very much. Morning. At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners for the purpose of agenda review of next week's meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer?
He's in the building.
Okay. Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner
Here.
Klicka? Actually, I think Commissioner Schaefer has left for the
Commissioner
day.
Schaefer has
His stuff is still here.
left the
so-
building.
dental
Yes.
procedure, which we should all try to avoid.
Be thankful we're not doing.
Yeah. Commissioner Osterhaus?
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
And Chairman Eilert?
Here. We do have a quorum present, and Mr. Schaefer is here with us. Thank you very much.
That was the quickest
stand
dental
corrected.
procedure I have ever heard of.
I'm leaving in.
Would the clerk please read the proposed
leaving 10 minutes.
consent agenda items?
Number one, consider approving the September 13th, 2018 business session minutes. Item number two, consider ratifying the chairman's appointment of Ulysses Wright to the Community Corrections Advisory Board through February 7th, 2019. Item number three, consider approving and transmitting the state fiscal year SFY 2018 Johnson County Department of Corrections Comprehensive Plan Year-End Outcomes Report to the Kansas Department of Corrections. And item number four, consider approval of an interlocal agreement between the Board of County Commissioners and the City of DeSoto for connectivity and fiber use to the Johnson County Communications Center at 11180 South Sunset Drive, Olathe, Kansas, 66061.
Mr. Sullivan, any comments you'd like to make? This is an annual action that we need to take, is that right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sullivan, we can visit offline on this, and I'm probably okay keeping it on consent, but there were a number of, well, I'll call them fails. I don't mean that to be in a pejorative sense, but we had some misses in terms of outcomes, and I would be interested in knowing what we've learned from that and what changes are planned either by the state or by us to try to alleviate that gap. If that is probably a better term than saying fails, but I know you follow this very closely, so maybe we can do this offline unless you have a quick summary.
No, I'd be happy to meet with you offline, Commissioner. One thing just to keep in mind, I'm not sure if it makes a difference or not, these outcomes are picked and written by our department. So they're not, except with the exception of one that's statutory, but these are ones that our department creates and then tries to accomplish.
Right. And I commend you for that, but I would like to learn more.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we'll keep this on consent. Next item, let's see, Mr. Thompson, is there any comments? This is a standard agreement that we've used with other cities, is that right?
That is correct, Chairman.
And, okay, questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Just to clarify, we use a full cost recovery model on this?
There is no cost to the county, of course. We have not looked at the capacity for the fiber to see if there would be additional cost for that last couple mile stretch to the communication center, and we're just reviewing that as we speak. I apologize, I don't have that answer for you today, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
Consent.
Maybe before next week you can let me know.
Absolutely, I apologize.
Consent's fine.
All right, so noted. Item number 5.
Resolution number 080-18, consider approving an agreement submitted by the City of Olathe, Kansas, and Fire District Number 1 of Johnson County, Kansas, and ordering the detachment of land from the boundaries of the fire district and the transfer of such land to the city for fire protection services.
Yes.
Rick Lind with the Legal Department. The City of Olathe adopted 2 ordinances that annexed land into the city. The land is located within the boundaries of Fire District Number 1, and you see the 3 tracks. However, also as a part of their annexation, they did annex land into Fire District Number 2. This detachment, however, is only for that land in Fire District Number 1. The city has approached us about a future detachment for Fire 2, but those talks are just now starting. The city and the fire district did enter into a detachment agreement, and pursuant to state law, you have to approve that agreement before it becomes effective. The agreement provides for the fire district to continue to provide fire services to the area through 2019, and the city to take over fire protection services in 2020. Therefore, the city will not receive any taxes until the year 2020. Their agreement did not provide for any compensation to the fire district as a result of the detachment, as the fire district did determine that the detachment would not materially jeopardize or affect the fire district's tax base. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lynn, thank you. You answered part of my question about material impact financially on the district. I'm glad you offered that. We've had a situation in the past where there were some properties that were supposedly removed from the fire district, but were not, and then added to the Olathe Fire District, or Olathe's tax structure, and they were, in essence, double taxed. Is there a system in place to make sure that there is no gap or double taxation for these lots and structures?
Yes, the answer is yes. The Kansas legislature did pass a statute several years ago to remedy that situation, and county staff and city staff do monitor that, and this agreement specifically takes care of that. Okay. That's why the city will not take taxes until 2020.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because this was a fairly recent bump, as it were, yeah. And I just don't want that to occur again. And Mr. Chairman, a procedural issue, if I could. Mr. Lynn, I would encourage the legal department to update their briefing sheet headers, because we've been adding kind of a subject line to these documents, and it's helpful for the casual reader when we try to, at least for me, when trying to go through. So just would encourage you to do that. Ms. Green is very familiar with the new format, and I commend her for working that through staff.
We will take care of that issue.
Thank you, sir.
Well, under the circumstances of the action, I think it should remain on action, so noted. Number 6.
Resolution number 082-18, consider adopting an information technology policy for Johnson County government and authorizing the county manager to adopt information technology procedures consistent with the policy.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Happy to talk through this with you this morning. I'm Michael Aldridge with DTI. This is a resolution that would advance an information technology policy and give the county manager the authority to implement the complementary procedures to go along with that. These policy and procedures have been worked on by over 30 staff. Governance Council, the IT Governance, and the Programs and Risk Committee both recommend the adoption of these as well. There's one person who worked particularly hard that I wanted to recognize, and it's Brent Christensen, who has done a tremendous amount of work on this. So while many people have worked on these together, Brent really should be recognized for his efforts. So by adopting the resolution, the county will, for the first time, as I understand it, have a countywide framework that will govern how information and technology is utilized. I'll just highlight, and I know you have the packet, but this includes things like IT governance, which of course is about setting strategy, direction. It includes things like architecture, which we've talked about with the centralization of IT purchasing, the standardization. So all these pieces really do fit together. It touches on information security. It touches on how the help desk function, how we best meet the needs of the customers. Project management, vendor management, system acquisition, and that's an important one because that's something that, again, we're taking steps to better be thoughtful about our selection processes, where historically they've been done at a department level. With these in place, they'll be evaluated by the various governance committees, and those are important. The policy and the procedures are very foundational in nature, and And we're confident this will provide a good framework to ensure more efficient, more effective IT delivery and best practices throughout the county. What questions do you have for me?
Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Aldridge, thank you. I know you've worked hard on this too, and I know you're leaving soon. Thank you for your service and this work. One question, though, I had was, many times when you put in a new policy like this, a comprehensive policy on a system that is complex and integral, sometimes things are missed or misstated or misapplied. Is there some kind of review process built into this going forward to make sure that the customers and the departments are served and that this policy not only will but can be implemented?
Yes, sir. That's a great question, and I have my answer is that the policy statement is written in such a way that we believe the foundational elements are there, meaning it gives the direction, but it's not so granular, sir, that we would anticipate changes at the policy level. Where those changes would occur would be at the procedure level, which the county manager, if you adopt the resolution, would have the authority to work with the subject matter experts for adjusting down the road.
Okay. So we will not be seeing reiterations every 3 months or 6 months. This will be something that the manager, okay, thank you.
Sir. Mr. Klicka.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael, I don't know if this was addressed or if I've missed something here. As you're well aware of, I'm very much favorable to getting a standardized policy as far as IT goes, and for that, to all the folks involved, thank you. But this talks about Johnson County government. Is there a definition for Johnson County government that includes its agencies and subordinate boards? And I was looking for actually that definition in here and did not see it, but I know we took a lot of pain here within this commission here, worried about, well, what would the parks think? What would the library think? What about the fire departments and so forth? It was our understanding that this would be all-inclusive so that we're all consistent across the board. And this was extremely a critical piece to make sure everybody was all in line, especially from the security standpoint. Am I correct?
You are correct, and that language is in here, sir, in a couple of places, and I could pause a moment and try to find it, or...
You don't. I just want to make sure that for the future,
yes, sir.
If I go to a Parks Commission meeting at the same time, I can get back to something and says, we're all in this together.
Yes, sir. It explicitly says that.
Okay. I was just trying to look for it and I couldn't find it.
Sir.
Thank you.
Other questions? Action?
Consent.
Yes.
Consent?
Consent?
Consent? All right, so noted. Next item?
Item number 7, conduct a public hearing and consider approving the proposed Streamlined Public Housing Authority annual plan for the period covering FY 2019 for submission to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD.
Jesse.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Jess Moffel with the Johnson County Housing Authority. This is a routine annual process required by HUD to publicly state any changes to our Housing Authority's 5-year or streamlined annual plans. There are no changes to either. Our Resident Advisory Board, Housing Community Development Advisory Board, and the public have reviewed our intentions and have had no comments. A public hearing on this matter is scheduled for the 4th of October at this venue. Some key program points. We currently have 1,447 authorized voucher. That number is unlikely to change. Over 99% of our housing authority or housing assistance payments are paid to private for-profit landlords. We currently have 244 participating landlords, 242 are for-profit. Johnson County Housing serves 2,936 people in those households. 53% of households have a disabled occupant, 18% have an elderly occupant, and 39% of program participants are 17 and under. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Well, again, this is set the date on the public hearing. So thank you for that information, and this will remain on action Excuse me, Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Moffel, is this your first time before us?
Second or third.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I didn't remember. I would appreciate visiting a little bit further on this. There has been some conversation in other venues regarding affordable housing and the impact that issue has on our community at large and what we can do and should do. And I don't have any objections to this, please understand, but I'd like to get a better understanding of the role of these efforts in that greater program impact and how we are identifying or hope to measure success. And I am sure this contributes to that, but what does success look like? So Mr. Thompson's over here shaking his head, so he understands, I think, where I'm going with that, because this program may be just fine, but are we really getting to the root issue that we're facing in terms of poverty and homelessness? So with that, I'll look to him to round us up. Thank you.
Well, I would simply add this, the more information available, the better. So I think the data you've outlined is important, and we'll look forward for additional sharing of that information at the public hearing. So this will remain on action. Next item.
Item number 8, resolution number 081-18. Consider to amend the FY 2018 to 2022 Capital Improvement Program, CIP, to include Health and Environment Electronic Health Record System capital project and improving and authorizing a contract in an amount not to exceed $300,000 to CDP Incorporated, funded with Public Health Fund reserves, for the purchase, customization, and implementation of an electronic health record system for the Department of Health and Environment, RFP R28129, Unified Government, Wyandotte County.
Morning, Commissioners. Dave Rotner with the Budget Office. This looks to do 4 things. Essentially, we're going to amend the 2018-2022 CIP program, and in so doing, basically add a capital project account for the electronic health record system for health and environment, and do a use of reserves in the amount of $300,000 to pay for that. And then this also would allow for us to enter into a contract on this multi-county group effort for the local health departments with this electronic health record system, which then would interface with the state. We've taken a number of looks at this, and there's been several iterations and project requests related to this. And staff feels the timing on this and our opportunity to partner with Wyandotte County in this effort offers the best opportunity for us to go ahead and address our deficiencies with our current system. So with that, I'll stand for any questions you might have.
David, let me ask you this. I think this is a great idea. Was this a combination or cooperation with the other county or counties state mandated, or was that generated within the health services area?
I believe the health service areas and the various providers and counties, knowing that they all have similar issues and problems, have taken a coordinated effort to address it. So,
okay, very good. Mr. Ostrowski.
Commissioner Brown and I sit on the Workforce Development Board, and Commissioner Philbrook from Wyandotte County and several of the other commissioners are usually at those meetings, and Commissioner Philbrook complimented Johnson County on how great the departments were to work with and how much they appreciate them reaching out and on this coordination. And, you know, it was kind of an aside to bring up at a workforce development meeting, but she was so excited about it that she wanted to mention that, so I thought I'd pass that along.
Yeah, good. Mr. Brown, you had
Just a quick question. So our portion is 300,000?
That's correct.
What is the total?
Please.
Well, Eugene will come up and hopefully address that.
Lou Jean Mars, Johnson County Department of Health and Environment. So one thing that I'm happy to report that since we began this process, there has been further refinement of the Johnson County portion of this cost. And we believe that we have driven that down to slightly under $200,000. So we were pretty happy about that. So here are the big totals. The highest costs are for Johnson and Wyandotte because we are the two biggest counties involved in this effort, and those two total, what's that, like 300 and
About 350,
about 350, 360, yeah. And then Lawrence Douglas County or Health Department, Riley County, and Shawnee County are the other partners, and theirs are around 100,000. So total probably around 450 to 500,000 for the one-time cost to acquire this electronic health record.
Okay, so at the $300,000 on Johnson County's part, how was the $300,000 number arrived? Is that was it based on a percentage of population of the counties?
It's primarily driven by the number of users that a department has, and again, with Wyandotte and Johnson, we have the largest number of clinical users that will be accessing this electronic health record to provide services.
Okay, and how much did you say Wyandotte County's portion of the, we're 300 and they're how much?
Their portion was 100, ours is right around 188,000 and theirs is right around 158,000.
Okay.
Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to extend the discussion necessarily, but maybe before next week, the last sentence under the analysis talked a little bit about the multi-jurisdictional efforts. I'd like to learn a little bit more and have a little bit better understanding of not just the costs, but the benefits that are foreseen in this effort. So if we could make arrangements to do that before next week, I would appreciate it.
Just with you individually, Commissioner?
Mr. Allen.
With me, yeah. For me. Thank you.
This sounds like a great project, great partnership. I guess my question would be, and maybe the timing is good to ask this question, with our new IT policy, there'll be other instances like this where we partner outside, and how do we integrate that with having that adhere to a new IT policy may be something that we need to investigate, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm assuming our policy is going to take precedence on this, and that whatever we add, software packages, other informations, all have to kind of conform to it. Is that correct, Michael?
You're correct. There's nothing that we are proposing to you that would in any way impact Lou Jean's ability to move forward with this collaborative effort. The review process really would occur at the governance level, were there to be one, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay. Remain on action? All right. Next item.
Item number 9, consider authorizing an FY 2018 start date for the FY 2019 approved personnel requests of 1 FTE customer relations engineering technician for wastewater and 2 FTE IT asset administrators for the Department of Technology and Innovation.
Good morning, Nate Bloom, Budget Office. This is an early start request for 3 FTE that were approved in the 2019 budget. The first one's an engineering tech for wastewater's plan review group. Currently, they're using consultants at a very high cost to review those plans. By hiring this position, they should see significant savings by eliminating one of those consultants. They're expected to save over $100,000 over the next year. The other 2 are IT asset administrators for DTI. They are needed to implement the centralized IT purchasing program, which DTI presented on last week. Currently, they have 1 position dedicated to this program, and then these 2 positions would work on inventory management and data analytics.
Okay. And these were approved for the future budget, is that right? Okay. Questions?
Consent.
Consent. All right. So noted. Next item.
Item number 10, consider approving a contract extension with Allen Gibson Hulick for the audit services through July 31st, 2019.
Good morning, Becky Jones, the Assistant Finance Director for the Office of Treasury and Financial Management.
Before you today is a request for an extension of
Could
our
you
audit
stop
service-
talking to the
Need to pull the
microphone, please?
microphone down.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Before you today is a request for an extension of our audit services contract. There are 3 reasons for this request: timing, CAFR software implementation, and the anticipated implementation of Fire District Number 2 into the county's Oracle financial system. The timing of this renewal is difficult for both the accounting staff and the audit firm if a new firm is chosen. We are currently going through the RFP process. We issued the audit RFP on August 1st. We received 4 proposals and plan to interview 3 respondents on October 2nd. The contract is currently scheduled to be renewed on November 1st. This only allows the accounting team 1 month to prepare for the transition before year end. It also only allows 1 month for the audit firm to fully staff and prepare for an engagement the size of Johnson County. A change of renewal date to August 1st, 2019, and August 1st going forward would allow for proper planning and preparation time and would make for a smoother transition for both parties involved. The accounting team also plans to implement software that will partially automate and streamline the preparation of the county's comprehensive annual financial report. The kickoff call with the vendor is scheduled for next week, with on-site training and development scheduled for the week of October 22nd. Lastly, TFM anticipates the integration of Fire District Number 2 into the county's Oracle financial system. This project alone will require a significant amount of TFM resources to implement and go live by January 1, 2019. So I ask for your consideration and authorization for a contract extension of 9 months through July 31st, 2019, with our current auditing firm, Allen Gibbs & Hulick, for an amount not to exceed the 2017 audit service fee plus 3% for an amount of $125,455. And with that, I will stand for
Okay,
questions.
so basically, this allows, this extension would allow the RFPs to go forward.
Yes.
Change the effective date, which would give any new provider opportunities to be prepared for the audit.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
As well as staff.
Any other questions? Consent? So noted.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 11, consider entering into a business operations agreement with the Johnson County Fire District Number 2 district to allow the county to provide certain ministerial, financial, and general record-keeping services.
Mr. Thompson.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Maury Thompson, Deputy County Manager. This item has been placed on the board's agenda review for movement to the agenda for next week. However, this is pending action by the Fire District Board at their meeting this evening. If that board approves this action, we've placed this item so that the Board of County Commissioners can ratify it on your end of the agreement next week.
Okay, well, we will be meeting on this evening, so we'll go ahead and continue this on action. Very
good.
We'll have to, as sitting as the fire board, I'm assuming.
Just in case we don't pass it as the
Correct.
fire board.
That is correct,
Right.
Chairman.
So noted.
Well,
Thank-
excuse me. No, next week you would be ratifying it as the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay,
So
all
it
right.
could go on consent docket.
If it passes,
If it passes.
tonight.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Yeah, we'll wait on the discussion this evening, so, okay. All right, are there any other items?
No, sir.
Okay, there being none, our agenda review is completed. We are adjourned from that activity. We're back in open session. We do need to determine a new time, extend the time for the executive session. Mr. Allen,
Do you want to start at 11:20 or later?
that's 11:20 is fine.
I'd move that the board recess its open meeting and convene in an executive session at 11:20 a.m. for a period of 15 minutes for the purpose of receiving the advice of counsel and to protect the attorney-client privilege, and for a period of 5 minutes for the purpose of discussing pending litigation and to preserve confidential information, and to reconvene an open session in this room at approximately 11:35 a.m. or as soon thereafter as the executive session may end.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to extend the executive session as noted. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer, is absent, sorry. Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka?
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhouse?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried, so we will move into the executive session and reconvene in open session following that item. reflect that approximately 11:25 a.m. we reconvened in open session. We do need to extend the executive session for another 10 minutes. Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the board into an open meeting to convene an executive session at approximately 11:35 a.m. for a period of 10 minutes for the purpose of receiving the advice of counsel and to protect attorney-client privilege, for the purpose of discussing pending litigation and to preserve confidential information, and to reconvene an open session in this room at approximately 11:45 a.m. or there soon after, as the executive session may end.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second is in place. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka?
Yes.
Commissioner Osterhaus?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. We will re-enter our executive session.
For the record.
record will reflect that at approximately 11:45 a.m., we reconvened in open session, no action required, so we are adjourned. Have a nice weekend.
See you this evening.
Yep.
I have to talk to Bob Ford.
Oh, okay.
One of my constituents got in touch with me yesterday.